Good afternoon, children.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Let's begin our today's session with Adityadev seminar. Adityadev, your topic? What's your topic, child?
Ma'am, 1 minute. Can I disconnect and enter? I have the network issue. I come right now.
Okay, let's
I'll
start.
disconnect and enter.
Your voice is not clear. Shall we
Ma'am,
start?
I'll disconnect and enter.
Children, we'll have Adityadev's seminar towards the end. So we'll continue with the classes of Protista. We already completed a few classes and a few more are remaining. What are the two classes that we already completed? Tushar, what are the two classes that we completed?
Yes, ma'am.
What are the two classes of Protista that we completed already?
Dinoflagella and euglenoids.
Three we completed, I think. Three we have completed.
Yes, ma'am. And
starting with C. Starting with H. Chrysophytes.
Chrysophytes, that's
Chrysophytes. Then euglenoids and dinoflagellates we have completed. And what is remaining is slime molds. So let us learn about slime molds. They are saprophytic protists. What do you mean by saprophytes? Yes?
Aditya is in the waiting room.
I had admitted him. Only
Yes,
Buddha
ma'am,
is.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, Adityadev, I will begin. And then towards the end, I will give you time. Okay?
Okay.
They are saprophytic protists. What do you mean by saprophytes? What are saprophytes?
They feed on dead and decaying matter.
Yes, exactly. They feed on dead and decaying organisms for their food. The body moves along decaying twigs. So the body of slime molds will keep moving along with the decaying twigs and leaves. Twigs means small branches of plants. So along with these decaying leaves and twigs, they will also moving along and they engulf organic material. They take in, they consume, they engulf in these particles, these organic materials. Once again, their body moves along decaying twigs and leaves, and you know they are deriving their nutrients from dead and decaying matter. Actually, they when we learned or when you had learned about saprophytic nutrition taking place in fungus in lower classes, you might have learned that they secrete some juices, and these juices will break down these dead organisms into simpler substances, and then they absorb the nutrients from them. So saprophytes are organisms which feed on dead and decaying organic matter, and slime molds, they keep moving along with the decaying twigs and leaves, and they engulf, they take in the organic material. Under suitable conditions, they form a group or an aggregation which you call as plasmodium. What you see in the figure is plasmodium, which may grow and spread up to several feet. So it's a group of slime molds. They join together and they form a large aggregation, a collection of the same. And sometimes it can grow and spread over several feet. It becomes quite big and it increases its size, reaches several feet in its size. Okay, and you call this aggregation of slime molds as plasmodium. Plasmodium should not be confused with the protozoan plasmodium. The other protozoan, the protozoan which we had already learned, plasmodium, it is a malarial parasite which causes malaria. And as you know, malaria is spread by female Anopheles mosquito. Anopheles mosquito is not the causative organism, but the carrier, the one who spreads the disease, but it is caused by the protozoan that is plasmodium or malarial parasite. This plasmodium is a different one. This is formed by groups of slime molds. At times, these slime molds, they form a collection or a group which you call as plasmodium. They might grow and reach up to several feet. You can see the picture of plasmodium over there. I'll repeat it, not to worry. I'll show the slide again. Now, when the conditions are unfavorable, during unfavorable conditions, the plasmodium differentiates and form fruiting bodies. So there you can see some fruiting bodies are being formed, which produces spores at their tips. And you know that I think class 10, you have learned about spore formation. Usually, organisms which carry out spore formation, they produce it during unfavorable conditions. Why spores are produced during unfavorable conditions? What is the advantage, or what are the advantages provided by spore formation? Can anybody tell me why spores are being formed? Is there any advantage? You have learned so many points you've learned last year. Let it be wrong. I have told you
Many
can
spores
make.
can be produced at a time.
They can be.
Many spores can be produced at a time.
That is true, but here why it is mentioned under unfavorable conditions. What you said is correct. Suppose
When
many
the conditions are favorable, they can block out and release the.
spores are produced during the unfavorable conditions. What is the advantage? What is special with these spores? They have something which helps them to tide over the unfavorable conditions.
They
Spores
have
are
an outer covering.
Yes, they have a hard outer covering. They are resistant. They can tide over. They can withstand the unfavorable conditions. And on the return of favorable conditions, they'll germinate and form a new organism. So when the conditions are unfavorable, they will differentiate and form some fruiting bodies, which are having spores at their tips. And these spores possess true walls which can protect them from unfavorable conditions. They are extremely resistant and they can withstand all the harsh weather conditions, harsh climatic condition or scarcity of the important requirements for them to germinate. When all these are absent also, because of the hard protective covering, they can withstand all that. And on return of favorable conditions, they will germinate. And they can be easily dispersed, carried to faraway places by means of air currents. Spores are very light in weight. They can be easily carried away. Okay, once again, both the slides we'll see again. Slime molds are saprophytic protists. Saprophytes are organisms which feed on dead and decaying organic matter, or those which derive nutrition from dead and decaying matter. And their body moves along decaying twigs and leaves, and they engulf organic material. And that is how they obtain their nourishment. And when the conditions are suitable or during favorable conditions, they will form an aggregation, that aggregate or that group of organisms or slime molds you call as plasmodium. As you can see in the picture, they get connected, they can form a collection, they can grow and form or spread over several feet. They become huge structures by forming plasmodium. But on the contrary, when the situations are unfavorable, they will form spores with the help of certain fruiting bodies. So they will form fruiting bodies. At the tip of these fruiting bodies, spores will be produced. And due to the presence of a hard protective covering, or they are provided with true walls, which will help them to resist all the unfavorable conditions. And on the return of favorable conditions, they'll germinate. And these spores can be easily carried to faraway places with the help of wind or air currents. That was about slime molds. And with that, we have completed the first four. Now we are moving on to the fifth one, protozoans.
Ma'am, can you show the previous slide?
Yes. When it is over, let me know. Okay, I'll change.
1 minute, ma'am. I'll finish. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, okay. So we have completed slime molds, and with that we are proceeding to the fifth one, protozoans. They are heterotrophs. They can lead a parasitic life, or they can be predators of other organisms. But anyhow, they are consumers. They depend upon other organisms for their food. They are not autotrophic. They cannot prepare their own food. They are believed to be the primitive relatives of animals. You know, animal kingdom and Protista. They form two different kingdoms. Earlier, all these organisms were included under animal kingdom. So they are considered to be the primitive relatives of animals. And protozoans can be further categorized into amoeboid protozoans, flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoans, and sporozoans. So many subdivisions or categories are coming, so don't get confused. So we started with kingdom Protista. Under kingdom Protista, 5 classes we discussed: chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and finally protozoans. Protozoans are further subdivided into 4 groups: amoeboid protozoans, flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoans, and sporozoans. These are the 4 groups: amoeboid protozoans, flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoans, and sporozoans. We are going to learn about each one. Sometimes protozoans alone can be asked as a 5-mark question. Briefly explain the different groups of protozoans. Or a kingdom can be asked. Briefly explain kingdom Monera. Briefly explain the different classes coming under kingdom Monera. Anyhow, it can be asked. So it will be better if you can make a concept map, like with flow charts. You know how to prepare a concept map? The gist of that using or in the form of a flow chart. If you make some figures or some flow charts like that, it will be easy to recollect. Otherwise, you might get confused. So in this context, in this chapter and all, it is highly relevant. So just by seeing that concept map, you will not get all the points, but all those subdivisions. So each class is coming under which kingdom and which class is subdivided. All that at a glance, you will come to know. So it will be better if you can prepare a concept map or a mind map based on this particular chapter. Now here we are going to learn the different groups of protozoans. We will begin with amoeboid protozoans. As the name suggests, a typical example is amoeba. And endamoeba also I think you're familiar with. Endamoeba histolytica, which causes amoebic dysentery. Endamoeba, amoeba, all those are examples for amoeboid protozoans. And they live in fresh water, sea water, or moist soil. So in diverse habitats, you can find them: salt water, fresh water, even moist soil. And an important, a unique feature of amoeboid protozoans is that they are provided with some projections on their body which are not fixed. Like it keeps changing according to the requirement of the organism. These structures keep changing, and you call them a pseudopodia. Pseudo means false, podia means feet. And we call it a spodia, pseudopodia, because they are used for locomotion. Not only for locomotion, these structures will help them to capture the food too. And depending upon in which direction they have to move, or in which direction the food item is present, accordingly pseudopodia can be put forth. Marine forms have silica shells on their surface. Some of them lead a parasitic life. So 2 examples are given: amoeba and endamoeba. The marine forms, I told you, different types are there, or they are found inhabiting a different habitat. And in marine forms, you can find silica shells on the surface. Some of them lead a parasitic life. Example, endamoeba, because they live inside the body of a host. And if they are found inside our body, they can cause a disease which you call as amoebic dysentery. There comes flagellated protozoans, flagellated. From that itself, you can understand these are provided with flagella. Amoeboid protozoans, one unique feature is presence of pseudopodia. Flagellated protozoans, they have flagella, as the name suggests, free living, or it can be parasitic. Either it can lead a parasitic life or they will be free living. Then parasitic forms cause diseases like sleeping sickness. I think about sleeping sickness, 9th or 10th standard you have learned, no? Trypanosoma gambians, about the fission taking place in them. 10th standard you have learned, no? No. Oh, that was leishmania. You learned about leishmania last year. Okay, parasitic forms, they cause diseases like sleeping sickness. Sleeping sickness, any idea what is meant by sleeping sickness? It is not that disease which we all have when we get some time, some spare time, or when as soon as the classes start, or as soon as you open the textbook. So that is a different sickness. But this sleeping sickness, we call this disease by the name because one of the main symptom is the patient will become very drowsy because of the effect of this particular parasite. So you call it a sleeping sickness. Example is trypanosoma. The most important feature, they are provided with flagella. There comes ciliated protozoans. So from the name itself, a few points you can say. In amoeboid protozoans, amoeba is an example, and pseudopodia present. Flagellated protozoans, flagella is present. Ciliated protozoans, they move, or the locomotory structures present in them are cilia. They are aquatic. They actively move using cilia. They have a cavity known as gullet that opens to outside. Gullet here in this picture, it is not clear. In paramecium, somewhere here, so here you can find a structure like this. Then this will lead to another structure. Here there is an oral mouth. This part is known as gullet. Similar to esophagus, gullet. So there is a cavity. Mouth leads into gullet. Okay. There is an oral groove which leads into mouth, and mouth leads into a cavity known as gullet. And that opens to outside. They have a cavity which from inside to outside, if you are saying, this gullet is opening to outside. And the cilia, as I told you, the cilia will help them to move actively. These act as the locomotory structures. Apart from that, they will help in capturing the food. And I told you, these are aquatic organisms. And then some food particle is somewhere over here, the cilia will start beating, just like the oars of a boat. And when it is beating the cilia, because of the movement of the cilia, the water will start moving, and accordingly, the food particle present also there will be moving and will be directed towards its gullet. And that helps them to capture its food. Example, paramecium. Now next is sporozoans. They have a spore-like stage, an infectious spore-like stage in their life cycle. Example, Plasmodium or malarial parasite. It causes the disease known as malaria. They have an infectious stage. You will learn next year about the life cycle of Plasmodium. So they have a spore-like stage, which is considered to be the infectious stage of this parasite. Okay. And example is Plasmodium. It causes the disease known as malaria. That is why, so such protozoans who are having a spore-like stage, spore-like infectious stage in their life cycle are grouped under sporozoans. I'll repeat all the points once again. We learned about protozoans, the different groups coming under protozoans: amoeboid, flagellated, ciliated, and sporozoans. Amoeboid protozoans, they are found in diverse habitats, freshwater, marine water and even in moist soil. They move and capture the prey with the help of pseudopodia. Pseudopodia help them to capture the food as well as to move around. And marine forms, they are provided with some silica shells on their surface. Some of them lead a parasitic life. Example, Endomoeba histolytica or simply Endomoeba. Flagellated protozoans. They are free living. Some of them are free living, some are parasitic. They are provided with flagella, as the name suggests. They cause diseases like sleeping sickness. Example is Trypanosoma gambians or Trypanosoma. Ciliated protozoans, again here cilia are present. Cilia will help both in locomotion as well as in capturing the food. If you take the case of all the three, whether it is pseudopodia, flagella, cilia, these structures help them to capture their prey as well as to move around. Cilia, they are minute hair-like structures. See, some main differences between cilia and flagella are that flagella will be less in number. When present, it will be less in number. Cilia will be more in number. Then flagella will be, its length will be more. It's bigger in size when compared to cilia. Cilia are minute hair-like structures. Number will be more, but size will be less. Flagella, number will be less, but size is bigger than that of cilia. These are aquatic, actively moving using cilia, and there is a cavity known as gullet. And with the help of the beating movement of the cilia, the food present in the water, surrounding water, will be directed towards the gullet. And example is Paramecium and sporozoans. And only those protozoans who are having an infectious spore-like stage in the life cycle are grouped under sporozoans. A typical example is the malarial parasite Plasmodium. Any doubts? Any slides would you like to see? Any slides you want to see again? No answer. You are noting down the points? Children, at times respond. Anybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Adidev, get ready.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, children. Amoeboid protozoans, flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoans, and sporozoans. Okay. And about sleeping sickness, one more point to add. In the sleeping sickness, their normal sleeping pattern will get disturbed. Like they might sleep during the day and may not sleep at night. So normal pattern of sleeping will change. Shall I stop sharing? Okay. Yes, Basma.
Slime molds, they are saprophytic process.
They are saprophytic protists. Zahan, next point. Somebody is there in the room, Zahan. Somebody is disturbing you. Your brother is there, brother, sister? No. You're all alone in the room. Okay, tell me the point.
Saprophytes?
Saprophytes.
They feed on dead
Hello. Slime molds. Tell me about slime molds.
Slime molds.
We learned about it 2 days back, no?
Yes, they are
Did you learn?
saprophytic.
Day before yesterday, no? Zahan, when did we learn about slime molds? Day before yesterday? Monday?
No, just now.
Today only?
No, just now.
Okay, tell me the point.
Yes.
Say?
They form under suitable condition. They form aggregation called plasmodium. During unfavorable condition, they form spores, and then the spores can withstand unfavorable conditions, and
Okay,
they cover in
enough.
such stuff.
Okay, good. Next point, Sarah.
Their body moves along decay engulfs.
Pardon?
Their body move along decaying.
They move
twigs
along decaying twigs and
engulfs.
engulf?
Food.
Engulf this organic material. Okay. Emily, another point.
Unsuitable climatic conditions, they become separated and form a fruiting body which have spores on their tips.
Okay, that point Zahan had already told. Then what are the different classes? What did we learn? What did we say just now? Okay, slime molds, which is the next class that we discussed. Next class. And Mary, after slime molds, we discussed about
Protozoans.
protozoans. What were the points discussed?
They are heterotrophs.
Only that? One more point, can you say? Huh? Quickly. Devi?
They are said to be primitives of animals.
I was not able to understand what you said. Jyoti?
They are said to be primitive relatives of animals.
Okay. Samia?
Yes, ma'am.
Next point.
They're categorized into 4: amoeboid protozoans, flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoans, and sporozoans.
Talking about amoeboid protozoans, a unique feature. Devika, a unique feature of amoeboid protozoans.
They live in freshwater, marine water, and as well as
unique feature, which it doesn't share with any other organisms. Not the habitat. What is the unique feature of amoeboid protozoans? Presence of what?
Pseudopodia, that is the false pseudopodia.
Presence of pseudopodia. Yeah. Okay. Now in flagellated protozoans, just one, the most important point. Anishwara, in flagellated protozoans, what is the most important point?
Flagella.
It helps them to? Okay. Elaine, another point. Not another point. The next group. Which is protozoans. They have cilia. Cilia will help them to two functions.
Help them to move.
And I was showing action. If you look into the book, how can you see that? It helps them to
capture food.
Okay, then what is the next one? Anjana, last one.
Sporozoans.
Why you call them as sporozoans? They have
an infectious spore-like stage in their life cycle.
Spore-like infectious stage. Okay. So now over to Aditya Dev. Ready, Aditya Dev? Connection is fine?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hopefully. Okay, you may start.
Good afternoon to all. Today I'm here to present a seminar on the topic properties of living organisms. These are the points that we should discuss in this topic, properties of living organisms. We should know what is life, what is a living organism, and the last main point, properties of living organisms. So we cannot just categorize life as we see movement or anything else. There are certain points which make a living organism or an object, which we say life. So life is a unique, complex organization of molecules expressing through chemical reactions, which lead to growth, development, adaptation, and reproduction. Chemical reactions, in the sense, there are certain reactions taking place in our body. That is said to be the chemical reactions, which lead to growth, development, adaptation, and reproduction. We grow over time, we develop our skills or something, and we adapt to the environment we stay in, and we reproduce to give another life to something else. The next one is living organism. Living organism is a self-replicating, evolving, and self-regulating interactive system capable of responding to external stimuli. So it is able to respond to whatever it can respond. And yeah, we will move to the main point. Properties of living organisms. They are growth, reproduction, metabolism, cellular organization, and consciousness. And we will know, we'll start the presentation. Growth. So it is the increasing mass and mass of cells by cell division, number and mass of cells by cell division. In plants, growth continue throughout their lifespan. So when we go somewhere, we can see the tour guides, maybe they will say this tree is 400 years old or 200 years old. So they never stop growing. They grow every year or every day. But in animals, it's the opposite. As we know, in humans, we live up to the age of 120. That's the maximum age lifespan for us. However, cell division occurs in our body to reproduce cells, but you know, sorry. So as we saw, growth is increasing mass and size, and thus non-living things grow. Sorry, excuse me. Thus non-living things grow. So growth is not a defining property of living organisms. So we know mountains are not living organisms, but they're just an object like this. But still they grow. Ready? Okay, so mountains grow. Yeah, we know Mount Everest is growing. Anyone know that? What is the height of Mount Everest? It's 8,850 meters or 49 meters in some other data. So Mount Everest is growing by 86 centimeters every year. And still we know Mount Everest is not a living organism. It does not have life, still it grows. So we cannot consider this as a defining property of living organisms. The next is reproduction. It is a production of progeny having features similar to those of their parents. So we are children of our parents, our mother and dad. So we were reproduced and we are the progeny having features. We have the features similar to those of their parents. So reproduction are of two types, asexual and sexual. In unicellular organisms, growth and reproduction are same because they reproduce by cell division. Many organisms do not reproduce, even some humans, but there are treatments for those, but some are successful, some are not successful. Hence, this too is not a defining property of living organisms. Metabolism, it is a sum total of biochemical reactions taking place inside a living system. So we can say it's everything in our body. We can know what is happening in our body. We can't actually, but through some technological features, we can know what is happening. Hence, it is a defining feature of living organisms. Metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body in cell-free systems. So these are not actually living things, but are living reactions. So some might have seen the film Venom in the English film Venom. It's actually a living organism, but we can, slightly consider it as a living reaction. It needs a host to, react to the external stimuli. So now, cellular organization. Organisms are made up of one or more cells. We are made up of maybe millions, trillions, something cells. Hence, it is everything. You can see this picture down there. Atoms into a whole body and organism. So it is also a defining feature of living organism. And yeah, consciousness. It is the ability of organisms to sense their environment, respond to their environmental stimuli. Like I am responding to, I'm taking class right now. I am responding to. All organisms are aware of their surroundings. We all are aware of our surroundings. Hence it is a defining property of living organisms. And humans have a special gift that they are self-conscious about themselves. We are self-conscious about ourselves in many ways. We are conscious about our hairstyle, our look, and how we look, many things. Hence, we are conscious about everything. And only humans have that ability. So it is also a defining property of living organisms. And that's it. Thank you for your valuable time.
Any doubts, children?
No.
Some live demonstrations also I could see. Where are you, Adidev? Adityadev?
Yes, ma'am.
Some live demonstrations over there. It was part of seminar. Okay, anyway, good. So we'll wind up, children. Good. No problem. So we'll wind up, and how many more to complete the seminar? Only Zahan. No, Zahan will do the next day. Yes, no, Zahan, next day. Don't come up with some excuses. So shall we wind up? So thank you, children. See you next class.